One of the mostly discussed areas as of today is International Monetary Fund assistance to Sri Lanka. So we are discussing today what are IMF programs and how it affects Sri Lanka. IMF was established in 1944 to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment, sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty. The prime concern often raised with regard to approaching the IMF for a program is the conditionalities attached to it. Those, in general, cover key macroeconomic and structural policy adjustments. Purpose of provision of IMF facilities. IMF usually provides loans under its programs to member countries that experience BOP problems to support rebuilding international reserves, stabilizing currencies, ensuring continuity in payments for imports, and restoring economic growth. All IMF members are eligible to access IMF's resources in the General Resource Account or GRA on non-concessional terms. Similarly, the IMF also provides concessional financial support via the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust (PRGT), which is tailored to the diversity and needs of low-income countries. For emerging and advanced market economies in crisis, IMF assistance is provided via standby arrangements to address short-term or potential BOP problems. The Standby Credit Facility or SCF serves similar purpose for low-income countries. Further, Extended Fund Facility or EFF and Extended Credit Facility are aimed at providing medium-term support to countries facing protracted BOP problems. Accordingly, to help prevent or mitigate crises and boost market confidence, members with already strong policies can use the Flexible Credit Line (FCL) or the Precautionary and Liquidity Line or PLL. On the other hand, the Rapid Financing Instrument and the corresponding Rapid Credit Facility for low-income countries provide rapid assistance to countries with urgent BOP needs. Types of IMF policy commitments agreed with country authorities. Number one, prior actions. These are the steps a country agrees to take before the IMF approves financing under a program. These may generally include the elimination of price controls, formulation of the government budget in consistence with the medium-term fiscal framework, and taking measures to achieve debt sustainability. Number two, quantitative performance criteria. These are specific measurable conditions related to macroeconomic variables under the control of the authorities, such as monetary and credit aggregates, international reserves, fiscal balances, and external borrowing. This may generally include a minimum level of government primary balance, a ceiling on government borrowing, and minimum level of international reserves. Number three, indicative targets. This may set for quantitative indicators to assess progress in meeting program objectives. This includes a minimum level of government primary balance, a minimum level of domestic revenue collection, and a minimum level of social assistance spending. Another type is structural benchmarks. These are reform measures that often are non-quantifiable but are critical for achieving program goals. This includes improvement in financial sector operations, building up social safety nets, and strengthening public financial management. IMF programs in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's first IMF program was in 1965 and the last was in 2016. Latest IMF programs extended in 2009 and 2016 to Sri Lanka in terms of fulfilling the conditionalities is as follows. IMF-SBA Programme in 2009. As per the IMF staff report for the 8th and final review under the SBA, Sri Lanka fulfilled the net international reserve targets, net domestic financing, and reserve money indicative targets related to the program. IMF-EFF Programme in 2016. As per the IMF staff report for the sixth review under the EFF, Sri Lanka was unable to meet fiscal targets due to the significant revenue shortfalls after the Easter Sunday attacks in April 2019. Sri Lanka also made significant progress on the structural reforms agenda under the program by implementing key structural benchmarks, including developing a roadmap for flexible inflation targeting and flexible exchange rate regime and so many other indicators. These are some of the programs of regional countries with the IMF. Pakistan had an EFF arrangement in 2019 for 4.2 billion. Accordingly, India had SBA arrangement in 1991 for 1.6 billion. Bangladesh had arrangement in 2020 and it's somewhere around 177 million. These are some other countries had IMF programs. Nepal had ECF facility in 2022. Accordingly, Afghanistan and Maldives both had arrangements in 2020 as well. Implications of recent IMF program on Sri Lanka. IMF program will be an important part of strategies to overcome prevailing challenging economic conditions in the country. Considering the current low level of international reserves, servicing the significantly high debt repayments due in the near term will be extremely challenging. Liquidity in the domestic FX market has dried up amidst high foreign debt service payments and the reduction in FX inflows, resulting in significant depletion of gross official reserves and inadequate FX to meet the FX demand for essential imports such as fuel, gas, coal, medicine, and essential food items. In this context, there's a need for securing a sizable amount of foreign financing in the immediate future. Entering into an IMF program would not only provide access to additional financing, but would also enhance the confidence of potential foreign investors, including multilateral and bilateral counterparts. This, coupled with the implementation of a macroeconomic policy package, is expected to stabilize the overall macroeconomy, which will further promote non-debt creating financial inflows. These are major areas that could be expected to be considered under the present IMF program. Fiscal consolidation, appropriate monetary policy stance, exchange rate flexibility, phasing out of monetary financing, reforms of state-owned business enterprises, gradual unwinding of capital flow management measures, introduction of market-based pricing formula for utilities, and finally, strengthening social safety nets. This macroeconomic stabilization measure could result in a painful adjustment to the economy in the adjustment stage, but it has become imperative considering the current economic crisis. In conclusion, political and social stability needs to be achieved through an agreement between all relevant stakeholders to successfully negotiate and implement an IMF program. These are some of the references used in this presentation. IMF Sri Lanka's country page and IMF Sri Lanka press release and staff reports. Thanks for watching.